All right, so thank you for chomping at the bit. I'm Kyle Edwards, of course. This episode, I'm going to do the same as the previous episode where I looked at the NFC teams and just went through their quarterback situations, gave my quick thoughts on each of the starting quarterbacks for the NFC teams. Going to do the same thing on this episode with the AFC. But before I get, into all that, I just want to say, if you were able to tune in to the Sports Empire Network this past Tuesday and support Big Three Podcast, which is the show that I'm on the network, then I appreciate it. If not, you can go to YouTube, subscribe to Sports Empire Network, and then see the episode there. Or I believe it's still up on the Facebook page. And then make sure that, set an alarm or something for this coming Tuesday, where I will be back on again. This time it should be at 7 o'clock. Last week there was some difficulties, so we had to actually start at like 7:15, but we will start at 7 o'clock, so you should definitely tune in. It's a lot of fun. We just talk NFL, MLB, NBA, whatever is happening, and, making picks and all that, so tune in. Just want to say that before we get into the episode. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead, get into this, and see about these AFC teams and who's got it right and who it could be a long season for, certain fan bases. So, start with the AFC East. Using the depth charts according to ESPN. So, start with the Bills. Now, the Bills, they did play Thursday night in the season opener. So for me, Josh Allen, he was incredible Thursday night. Now, he did kind of answer the question I would have had for him if I, had done this episode before that game. But in the game against the Rams, Josh Allen was almost reserved to take what the Rams were giving him. If the Rams played deep coverage, he was fine hitting intermediate and short route guys. I still think he might scramble a little too much. Actually, I'm not going to say that. The only time it was really too much was when he was scrambling late in the game when they clearly had it won. But looking at Thursday night, I think that sets the bar to where Josh Allen needs to be for Buffalo to win the Super Bowl that so many people think they possibly could do this season. So that's my question for Josh Allen is, can he deliver consistently like he did Thursday night? Sorry. Now the Dolphins. So Dolphins have Tua as their starter. And there's plenty of questions about Tua. My overall question to him is, with the outside noise about him not being the right guy, can he prove people wrong? Because there's going to be questions about his arm strength, his, I guess maybe decision making. And I think there's some questions about his natural ability to be a starting quarterback. They brought him Tyreek Hill, but we've seen in the past, even with Patrick Mahomes, if Tyreek Hill doesn't get the ball enough, he can kind of become a distraction on the sideline during the game. Will we see any of those blowups with Tua? So I guess that ties into the question of being, is Tua the right guy to lead the Dolphins to a playoff spot? Because I'm not going to go lead them to a Super Bowl, because I feel like they need to make the playoffs first before we can really start talking about that. So that's my question for Tua. Like I said, I'm not the biggest Tua fan, but I also don't think all of the hate he's necessarily getting right now is warranted. He is still pretty young. So there's some time for him to show what he actually is as a starting quarterback. And maybe now with the new weapons down there in Tyreek Hill, maybe we see a better Tua Tagovailoa. Next, go to the Patriots. So, full disclosure, I am a Patriots fan. So if you're new listening, there you go. So for me, we know Mac Jones is the starter. My question for Mac Jones is, you can say he had a successful rookie season. I would say that. I mean, he led them to the playoffs. So in year 2, will we see a jump in production, or will we see somewhat of a sophomore slump that we have seen with other players, different positions or whatever? But yeah, so will we see a jump in production? And that can kind of be tied into the whole background noise that everybody's given with the coaching staff and who's calling the plays for him. So can he overcome that to where it's not a constant story week in and week out, where if he struggles, people are automatically talking about play calling and who's calling plays, blah, blah, blah. So if Mac Jones goes out and has a effective season, then all that talk can be put to bed. And it's going to be interesting to see, with the skill position players around him that a lot of people aren't high on. Although, I'm a fan of Jacoby Myers. I think he's one of those great, okay, I guess I won't say great, but I think he's a perfect complement to a receiving corps, being a possession receiver, a guy who just knows how to get open. Devonte Parker, I'm interested to see what he looks like in the Patriots system. And Aguilar, this is a chance for him to have a bounce back season, because last year was kind of a disappointment for him. And then we'll see once Tyquan Thornton comes off of the PUP list or whatever, how he looks. So I think Mac Jones can take a second-year leap. We'll just have to see if it comes true or not. The Jets are next up in the AFC East here. Zach Wilson, we know, is out for the first couple of games. So I guess we're going to talk about Joe Flacco. And the question is going to be, does Joe Flacco have any of that Baltimore magic in that right arm of his to, I guess, see if maybe they could steal a few games while Zach Wilson's out? And then the question once Zach Wilson comes back is, has his decision-making gotten any better? Because last season he threw a lot of careless picks. He seemed to kind of want to always throw the ball deep, where in the NFL that can get you in trouble. So maybe these few games of being out, because we know Flacco has no problem throwing up the ball underneath, but then when the shots are there downfield, taking them, maybe witnessing Flacco play that way, turn something on in Zach Wilson's head where he takes better care of the ball. So I think if you be honest with yourself, looking at Zach Wilson, you see the talent there. It's just whether or not it can be harnessed or not by the right coaches. So that's it for the AFC East. And if I were to rank the quarterbacks in the AFC East, I would go, I think Josh Allen's the clear number 1. I'd go Mac Jones 2. I'd probably go 2 or 3. Zach Wilson 4, since he's out right now. But I think potentially Zach Wilson would probably be 3, 2, or 4th. But I'd have Flacco as 4th right now. All right, let's go to the AFC North. Baltimore Ravens. We know Lamar Jackson is their starting quarterback. And my question for him for this season is going to be him betting on himself. Was it the right decision? If he goes out and has the year that, I guess Raven fans and some, pundits around the league think he could potentially have, where, he leads the Ravens back to the playoffs and maybe they have somewhat of a surprise run to the Super Bowl, then betting on himself is going to pay off because he'll probably just require more and more money after doing that. But the flip side is, if he were to get nicked up this season, what does that do for him going forward? I mean, does Baltimore's number come down even more to the point where he's completely unhappy? And then is he now looking to go somewhere else? Where would he fit anywhere else in the NFL? And my biggest concern with Lamar Jackson, if you been paying attention to the show, has been his throwing ability. I still think he relies on his legs way too much. So I'd like to see some improvement with his throwing, whether it's accuracy in the short intermediate game. And I think there's some accuracy concerns on his deep ball as well. Although I don't know how much of that we're going to see. Hollywood Brown is gone. So did Lamar make the right decision ultimately, turning down whatever the Ravens contract offer was, because he set the deadline for Friday? That's come and gone. So he's going to play this last season on his 5th-year option. We'll have to see if that was the right decision or not. The Bengals are next. They have Joe Burrow as their starting quarterback. Joe Burrow, I'm a big fan of Joe Burrow. I think because of the pieces he has around him. I mean, he has Joe Mixon behind him, good young quarterback. Chase, Higgins, Boyd. You could argue probably the best trio of wide receivers in the league, maybe. If you wanted to make that argument, I wouldn't argue with you. Hayden Hurst, the tight end. I mean, he's not bad. He's probably, he could potentially be like upper half in the league as a tight end. So Burrow's got the pieces there to be as successful this season as he was last season. The question is going to be, with the loss in the Super Bowl and the, I guess, recent history where teams in the following year that lost the Super Bowl struggle, will Burrow kind of buck that trend, come back, have a just as good of a season, maybe even a better season, and get Cincinnati right back into prime position to make a repeat appearance in the Super Bowl? And like I said, he definitely has the pieces to make it happen. So move on to Cleveland. The Browns have Jacoby Brissette. Now, ultimately, Deshaun Watson is their starter, but we all know the story there. He's been suspended for 11 games. So I'm not going to talk about Deshaun Watson on this one. Jacoby Brissette, I think the questions are obvious there. What is his fit, and what's the game plan ultimately for Cleveland for Brissette in this offense? Is he just going to be a guy who mainly turns around and hands the ball off to like Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt 30-plus times, and then when it comes to the passing game, all they're really asking him to do is dump it off on a screen pass or a quick little slant with the occasional intermediate ball? I think it's fascinating to see what they do, because I think the talent offensively is probably middle of the road. I mean, depending on how you feel about Amari Cooper, I wouldn't put him too high on the wide receiver list, but I mean, the production with him is there. You can't deny that. I mean, Brissett isn't Dak Prescott, so I'm interested to see what Brissett looks like with this offense and how efficient can they actually be. I mean, are the Browns going to be banking on going on long, sustaining drives, hopefully putting up points that way? Because I don't really see Brissett as a quick strike type of guy. I mean, he is pretty smart with the ball, so he should take care of the ball, but I just wonder what the offense will look like. And I guess how many games can Brissett win until Watson is available in week 13 because, like I said, he's suspended 11 games. And then they have a bye week, week 12. And then Watson will be eligible to play week 13. So can Brissette keep them in playoff contention until then? And then they'll take their chances with Watson for the rest of the season. Next up, Pittsburgh Steelers. They have Mitch Trubisky as their starting quarterback. And I think it's a simple question for Trubisky. How long can you hold off Kenny Pickett? Because clearly they drafted Kenny Pickett. You know, he's the local guy as he went to the University of Pittsburgh. So once kickoff is on Sunday, I think the clock to Kenny Pickett starts. So Trubisky as the starter in game one, it's well within his hands to continue to prolong Kenny Pickett's appearance. But if he goes out and struggles early in the season, the calls for Kenny Pickett will be loud, and I think it's going to be unavoidable in terms of Tomlin actually putting him in and then Trubisky becoming the backup. So Trubisky is all in your hands on when we see Kenny Pickett. So that's the AFC North, and if I was going to rank the quarterbacks in the AFC North, I would go. I mean, Burrow, better thrower than Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is more athletic, has probably better big play potential, but they're with his legs. I'd go Burrow 1, Lamar 2, Trubisky 3, Brissette 4. Yeah, that's where I would go with that. All right, AFC South. So we have the Houston Texans first. Davis Mills is their starting quarterback. Now, I think Davis Mills is an interesting quarterback because if you were to ask, I don't know, 25 NFL fans, and I'm going to, take out of the equation that they're Houston Texans fans, I wonder, one, how many people would know who Davis Mills is? And then two, the ones who do know who Davis Mills is, how they would rate him. Because to me, I think Davis Mills might be in the kind of Mac Jones camp. Because we saw with Mac Jones, a lot of people, and they still do to this day, question his ability. But if you look at him, he's a pretty solid quarterback. And obviously there's room to improve for Mac Jones. But I think the same thing could be said for Davis Mills. Davis Mills had a sneaky, decent season last season. I mean, it was just that the cloud of Deshaun Watson over the whole organization, the mess that was the coach hire, who's now gone. And I think in terms of the weapons around Davis Mills, there's not a lot of household names. I mean, Dameon Pierce is a rookie, but people seem to be high on him. Brandon Cooks, we know who Brandon Cooks is. I'll just be interested to see what he looks like. I mean, he's not a young guy anymore. Nico Collins, don't know a lot about. Philip Dorsett, I believe this is his second stint there. So I think he started off there. They won a few places with the Patriots, and now he's back there. And Dorsett's been a guy where there's been a lot of potential with him. It's just that doesn't seem to be sustained over a full season. They did draft John Mechie, but he's out with an injury. So it'll be interesting to see once he comes back, whenever that is, how he slots in on the wide receiver depth chart. But I think for Davis Mills is going to be, taking steps forward. Hopefully, making the Texans more competitive this season. Not going to say they're going to win many more games than they did last season, but can they be more competitive and be a tough out? And I guess continue to gain maybe some notoriety around the league. Like I said, I think a lot of people would think Davis Mills is a guy who, yeah, they drafted him, but he's probably not going to be the future of the franchise, and Houston should just look towards the draft again, whether it's this season, I guess this upcoming draft next season, before next season, you know what I'm saying, and go and get another young quarterback and, push Mills into a backup role or not. So that's going to be the questions for him, is proving that he can be a long-term solution in Houston. All right, Colts are next. They have Matt Ryan as the starting quarterback. Matt Ryan, it's going to be... Okay, so we saw past couple of years, basically since their Super Bowl run when he was with the Falcons, where they lost, 23, and blew that lead. It was kind of downhill from there in Atlanta because of a deteriorating offensive line, lack of legit wide receivers. For whatever reason, he fell out of favor in Atlanta. Now he's in a situation in Indy where their offensive line is better than what he had in Atlanta. Probably better than he's had in Atlanta in quite a while. Wide receiver group is not that bad, I would say. He definitely has an upgrade at running back with Jonathan Taylor. And I think that's where Matt Ryan is probably at his best, is, with the quality running back behind him, that means he can be more effective in the play action game, which I think is probably his best attribute to an offense. So I think for Matt Ryan this year, it's going to have to be playing, I guess, closer to that MVP type level than the past couple of seasons in Atlanta, because the talent around him is just better in Indianapolis. And then with that, it's going to be the pressure to be the guy who finally gets Indianapolis over the hump to a Super Bowl. Because remember, Andrew Luck was there. It was supposed to happen with him. Never happened. He retired sooner than most people thought. Then it was the Phillip Rivers short era, where they thought he was going to be the guy to get them over the hump. Didn't work there. Then they went younger with Carson Wentz, but then that didn't work. So now they're back to Matt Ryan, and we'll see if he's the guy to finally get it done for the Colts or not. Next up will be the Jaguars. So the Jaguars have Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. What's this? His second year, but his rookie season was, cemented in turmoil because of the whole Urban Meyer situation and, him clearly being unfit as an NFL head coach, which is why he's no longer an NFL head coach. So now that he has Doug Peterson as his coach, and we saw the magic that Doug Peterson, pulled off in Philly when they won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles after Carson Wentz got hurt. So can Peterson work the same magic with Trevor Lawrence, who's a better talent than Nick Foles? So we should see improvement from him this season. Now the question is going to be, how much of an improvement will we see? Will they be competitive for a playoff spot? I guess it could be possible. I kind of doubt it this season. I could see maybe a couple of years down the line. But, I think for Lawrence, it's just baby steps forward. Like I said, he's clearly a talented quarterback. But they're still rebuilding the roster around him. We'll get Travis Etienne back this season to see, what he can do. Because remember, they drafted him with Lawrence last season, but he got hurt before the season and we never saw him. So that should definitely help Lawrence out a lot. They've rebuilt the wide receiver group, bringing in Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. They brought in Evan Ingram at tight end. So it's going to be interesting to see Lawrence this seaon and how much of an improvement we see from this season to last season because he has a better head coach above him leading the team. All right, next up, Tennessee Titans. They have Tannehill as a starting quarterback. I think this is a big season for Tannehill because they drafted Malik Willis, who showed some stuff in the preseason. Now we know it's the preseason, so you can't get too high on that. But I think Willis has drummed up some excitement within the fan base for the Titans that I think if Tannehill struggles early, there's going to be a lot of fans that are going to want to see Willis early just to bring something different. Because that playoff game last year and the way that it ended for Tennessee, I think that really hurt Tannehill's reputation and standing with the fans there. So he's going to have to get off to a good start to the season. Otherwise, it could get ugly for him quickly in Tennessee. And his most reliable offensive weapon in Derrick Henry is now another year older. And we know that he's been used a lot in his career. So will we see slowdown from him? And if that happens, then it puts more pressure on Tannehill, which I think might bring out some of the bad qualities in him. And like I said, that will just, push the clock on Willis coming in and taking over for him. So there's definitely a lot of pressure on Tannehill this season. I think because of that, the expectations for Tennessee have dipped from past seasons. So that's the AFC South. If I was to rank the quarterbacks in the AFC South once again, I would go Ryan 1, Matt Ryan 1. I would probably go Trevor Lawrence 2. I think I'd go Davis Mills 3. And I'd go Ryan Tannehill 4. That may shock some of you, but yeah. I wasn't always the biggest Tannehill guy anyway. At least with Davis Mills, he's young. So there's some unpredictability there that kind of makes you, at least makes me think a little bit higher of him than Tannehill. I know what I'm getting with Tannehill. Not that great anyway. All right, so now the AFC West, which is probably everybody's favorite division in football this season. Start with the Denver Broncos. You have Russell Wilson. I mean, I've stated several times in the show, I'm a big Russell Wilson fan. Don't get me wrong. I love Mac Jones because I'm a Patriots fan, and I love the pick of Mac Jones, but Russell Wilson is my guy at quarterback. For me, it's going to be interesting to see him with a team that has legitimate Super Bowl aspirations because they have so much talent on the offense. And with some of those players, it's going to be health-related because Sutton has had some injury-plagued seasons. Judy had some injuries he had to deal with. Hamler, I think, is dealing with injuries right now. But you take those guys, and then you have Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, decent 1-2 combination in the running back. In the running back room. And then his offensive line in Denver is going to be miles ahead of what he had in Seattle. I just think expectations should be through the roof for Denver. And I guess spoiler alert, if you didn't once again see the Big 3 podcast show that I did on Sports Empire Network this past Tuesday, I actually predicted the Broncos to be the Super Bowl representative for the AFC. So I'm putting a lot of pressure on Wilson to produce in Denver. So because of that, it's going to be, can he prove my prediction right and lead this talented group to a Super Bowl berth? And I think he is the right guy for this group. Because if you look at the past couple of seasons, that's what's held back Denver was their quarterback position. And Russell Wilson's clearly an upgrade. Next up, got Kansas City. So with the Chiefs, you have Patrick Mahomes as your starting quarterback. And I think because of the movement within the division, Patrick Mahomes has actually kind of fallen to the background almost, because he's the guy who's been there. No, he hasn't been there the longest in the division, because that's probably Derek Carr, but he's been the guy who's had the most success in the division since he's been there. But now I think is really one of the first years where, people are coming up with other teams win that division than the Chiefs. Some people picking the Broncos, some picking the Chargers. There's even some out there picking the Raiders. And I think, people are looking at the loss of Tyreek Hill. I think they're looking at it as a bit more than it probably will be. I'm sure Kansas City's offense will be fine without Tyreek Hill. It'll just be a little different. So for Mahomes, it's going to be, can he, reclaim his stance as being the man in that division? Yeah, he's got Juju Smith-Schuster now, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. So those are two new guys they are replacing, Tyreek Hill and would it be Sammy Watkins, from last season? He's still Travis Kelce, one of the best tight ends in the league. So I'm sure Mahomes is going to put up the numbers and all that. But can he, get that second Super Bowl? Because remember when they won the first one, everybody was like, oh, Kansas City is about to go on a run of consecutive Super Bowls. It just hasn't happened that way. And I think Mahomes is the guy who would definitely benefit from a second ring. So that's my question for Mahomes with the Chiefs. Can he kind of reintroduce himself to all of us? The Raiders, who I mentioned a little ago, they have Derek Carr as their starting quarterback. Derek Carr is another one of those guys who I think I'm a little higher on than a lot of people are. So I guess for Derek Carr, this season is going to be, now that Josh McDaniels is his head coach, and Josh McDaniels, as we know, is such a innovative and great offensive mind, will McDaniels unlock the full potential of Derek Carr? So I'm not going to say the potential, because we've seen Derek Carr play great in stints, and then we've seen him play kind of poorly in stints. So now with a kind of legit offensive mind coaching him, although he had John Gruden was an offensive mind, I will say. And he was having a pretty good season last year. Then all that off the field stuff with John Gruden happened. We all know that. But so this season with Josh McDaniels, now he has Devonte Adams as well. If they can get a full healthy season out of Josh Jacobs, they should be good. Darren Waller at tight end. So Derek Carr is going to have to lead this group to a playoff berth one way or the other, even though the division is going to be tough. But I think based off the talent and the hype, they're going to have to be at least the wild card team this season. And can Derek Carr lead them there? I think that's a simple enough question. And now, finally, we have the Los Angeles Chargers. We know Justin Herbert is there, starting quarterback. Another guy that I like a lot. And I love the pieces around him as well. Austin Eckler is a do-it-all type running back. He can, run the ball for you. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. You can even split him out wide, let him run routes. He'll make plays that way. Keenan Allen, the ageless one, who's one of my favorite wide receivers in the league. Got Mike Williams, Josh Palmer, good complementary pieces. Gerald Everett at tight end, pretty good. Offensive line, pretty good. I think the biggest thing was defense with the Chargers, and they brought in some new people. Khalil Mack should help out a lot. So I think for Herbert, it's got to be in his second season. Or is this his third season? I think it's the second season. Actually, double check that. Yeah, so this is the second season. Yeah. So, can he take the leap? No, I'm wrong again. It's his third season. Yeah. So the third season now, I think expectation is going to be, that he becomes the MVP level quarterback that a lot of people think he should be. And if that happens, then it should be a big season for the Chargers. Now, once again, the division's going to be tough, but I think they definitely should be well within the race to win that division and then give some problems in the playoffs. So, yeah, that's my question. Well, those are my thoughts on Justin Herbert, Can he become the MVP level quarterback that everybody's kind of putting him in the MVP race before the season starts already? So that's going to be a lot for him to live up to. And once again, to rank the AFC West quarterbacks, I would go. This is going to be tough. I'm going to go. I might go. God, this is actually way tougher than I thought. I guess due to success, I'm going to have to go Mahomes 1, slightly ahead of probably Herbert, and then only because of age, and we have to see the fit in Denver, I'm going to go Wilson, slightly behind Herbert, and then I'll go Derek Carr 4th, but he's going to be but from my ranking so far on both these episodes, he's the best ranked number 4 in any division. So I think it's really close with this division. I'm going to say that. I'm not going to say Derek Carr's 4th because he's garbage or whatever. It's legit close between all 4 of them. So that's, those are my rankings of the AFC West. And of course, you let me know if you agree with them or not. But, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. If you did, you know what you can do. Hit the like button. Subscribe. Follow me over at Twitter @ChamaPodcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel because I did mention on the last episode that I will be, I guess, kind of creating a video format to this podcast. Just don't know when I'm going to start it. Because once again, Sports Empire Network, that podcast is a video one, so you can actually see me and, interact with. Comment section, because that's a live show. I don't know if I'll probably do live shows on this podcast as well periodically, but because of that, I will definitely do a video, upload of this episode on YouTube and I guess Twitter, some other places. In the future, probably really soon, I'll keep you updated with that. It's not gonna be too much longer before I do that, but I will obviously keep this audio portion as well for those of you who prefer it this way. But yeah, so like I said, let me know what you thought about my questions for the quarterbacks and how I rank them in the divisions, whether you agreed or not. If you did, cool. If not, let me know as well what your rankings are for each division. But football's back, loving it, and I am not abandoning the pick segment because I didn't get to do the Thursday game, but have an episode that I will do this weekend where I'm going to go through the rest of week 1, pick those games, doing the whole thing against the spread and all that, keeping track, all that good stuff. And then week 2, of course, I will get the Thursday night game in and will be full speed ahead with my weekly picks going forward. So look forward to that, and we'll have fun with that again this season. But yeah, so now that's it for me. So be safe out there. God bless. I'll catch you on the next episode. All right, I'm out. Have a good one.